Welcome back to Squawk Box. We are live in Paris this morning, where I sat down exclusively with French President Emmanuel Macron in a wide-ranging interview. Among the topics, the economy. The European Central Bank widely expected to cut rates next month. And I asked President Macron how worried he is about the value of the euro and whether it is going to weaken if the ECB moves before the Fed.
I do think about that. I'm not so worried about this issue. I think the guidance is clear. I'm not supposed to comment on the ECB decision because this is an independent body. But I think the guidance is clear, and this is a normalization on both sides of the ocean. And by the way, look at the situation. I think our economies did quite well to fix inflation without killing too much growth. And I have to recognize that we are fixing inflation issue. And in France, we still created private jobs during this period of time, which is quite unique. So I think we are entering in a normalization process, post-COVID, war, inflation due to energy and so on. So it's good. I think we need probably a bolder monetary policy. I'm not worried by the short term of the ECB.
A broader policy that looks like what?
Look, I'm a strong advocate of an enlargement of the mandate of the ECB. Following the model of the Fed, your central bank doesn't just take into consideration inflation, but growth and jobs creation is taken into consideration. I do believe that the ECB has to complete inflation as a target by jobs creation, growth, and decarbonization of our economy. Because decarbonization will create de facto inflation, for sure, because you will increase the cost of a lot of goods and products, and the re-regionalization, I would say the fragmentation of world trade de facto will create some embedded inflation. So I think we have to complete the mandate. This is a very political question, but this is much more efficient for European growth. And the issue of Europe, let's be clear, is to succeed in this agenda of decarbonization. France is back on track since 2019, and we are issuing today the right figure. It's not just 4.8, but more than 5% reduction last year, as we created jobs and growth. So it's feasible, and we are back on track. But we need growth. Right? This is the main issue for Europeans.
And my final economic question, it's a global one. Who should ultimately pay for the rebuilding of Gaza when that moment arrives?
I think this discussion will be part of a sort of peace treaty or a treaty for the day after, I would say. For me, the most important thing first is the humanitarian situation right now. We speak about lives and an awful situation. So this is why we do ask for a ceasefire. So for number one, ceasefire, humanitarian situation. Number two, before rebuilding Gaza, it's political solution. No matter who will rebuild and how will pay for Gaza, if you don't have a political solution, meaning a two-state approach and a Palestinian state in charge of this territory. And for me, in the condition of this Palestinian state, there is a recognition of Israel and the recognition of the security of Israel as one of the key and fundamental elements of the state. And this is, for me, the main way to have sustainable peace in the region, to say the security of Israel is part of our objective in the region and our top priorities. Palestinian state is a good thing because this is a relevant and a fair request from Palestinian people, but because it will provide peace in the whole region if there is a recognition of Israel and its security as this constitution. And third, the question will be who will pay. And everybody in the region and the rest of the world will come around the table. You have a lot of deep pockets in this region. A lot of them could be ready to pay if this is about the security, the stability of the region, and as a part of a broader picture. This is how I see the situation.
I also asked President Macron about what he thinks about the potential impact on the Paris Climate Accord and the larger economy if the former President Trump, is elected again.
I don't speculate on any elections, and especially in the US election, so I don't want to make a sort of impossible scenario or in case of. But what's important is when the US decided to withdraw for a while, at least we consolidate the rest of the club. And this is a period of time we used to have Turkey, Russia, and some others to stick to the agreement and sign and ratify. I think it would be a big mistake for US. It would be a big mistake for the planet, but big mistake for US, because the US, if the US decides to leave Paris Agreement, it will be a perfect occasion offered to big carbonized economy not to do their fair share of the effort.
You worked with him before, so what did you learn about working with him? Do you think that there would be a way to persuade him to remain in it?
Sometimes I succeed, sometimes I failed. So I'm very humble. I have no answer to that. I do my best, and I will do my best to convince him if he were president, and I do my best to convince when I think this is a good idea as well, President Biden, and we work very closely and very well with this administration. But I think the US as the first economy of this world has a very important role to play to decarbonize its economy. And by the way, I was not happy with Inflation Reduction Act because it was not good for the Europeans. But I have to recognize it's good to decarbonize the US economy because it attracts a lot of clean tech. So I think it was a smart law for your economy, your jobs, and for climate change at a global scale. So my objective now with the US administration is to work very hard, first to be sure that we resynchronize our agenda. And I think the US now has to regulate a little bit more the key investors, the business sector, to be sure they are more compliant with Paris Agreement. And the Europeans have to invest more because we regulated much more than the others, but we are not investing at the right scale.